Hey everyone, my name is Ashley Henson and I'm the 50th Sheriff of Paulding County. You're about to listen to 10-8 Paulding, which is the official podcast of the Paulding County Sheriff's Office. So you may be wondering, what does 10-8 mean? Well, it's a 10 code, and it means that we're going in service. So every time our deputies go in service, they'll say 10-8 Paulding. So welcome to 10-8 Paulding, and we hope you enjoy our podcast. Well, Robert, welcome. This is the 10-8 podcast from the Paulding County Sheriff's Office. Glad to have you here, and we're just going to have a conversation, let the community kind of get to know you and get to know us a little bit more. So welcome, and we're glad to have you.
I appreciate it, Ashley. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, we're going to have fun. So just for our listeners at home and viewers, we're just going to have a candid conversation about, how you became the district attorney, kind of your path in life,
Okay.
and then just kind of have a conversation, let folks kind of get to know you and maybe get to know me a little bit better, and just let our community know what's going on.
I think that sounds great. I'm hoping by the end of this, people will have a lot more understanding about what motivates me as district attorney.
Yeah, absolutely. And me too as a sheriff. So let's just start with the beginning. Like, where are you from? How did you become, your path through college and then becoming the district attorney of Paulding County?
Well, if everyone wants to travel with me back to 43 years, I was an Air Force brat, and I was an Air Force brat for the first 18 years of my life. My father was in the Air Force, and we were the stereotypical Air Force family. Dad was a fighter jock. Mom was a school teacher. As my father says, when he got too fat to fly the fighter jets, they gave him a desk and reassigned us, and the hometown that we always come from is Harris County down in South Georgia, Middle Georgia. Everyone in Atlanta thinks everything south of Atlanta is South Georgia. What I noticed is I always wanted to go elsewhere back to Virginia, but then I got kind of stuck. I said, you know what? There's Hope Scholarship, and that sounds great. So I went off to UGA, and then I got the shock of my life. The bursar handed me a check or a bill, not a check, for $7,000 and told me, sorry, you don't qualify for Hope. And that's when my legal path began. I always knew I wanted to be a lawyer. I marched across to the Office of Legal Services and asked if the general counsel was in. I'm not shy or bashful.
We know that.
And he asked, well, what are you doing here? And I said, well, have you ever heard of the Service Member Civil Relief Act? It says as a dependent of an Air Force member, on 18, I get to pick my state of residence, and it trumps any other regulation y'all got. I'd like free college, please. And he laughed, wrote me a letter, and back to the bursar I went with a certain type of grin and said, I'd take Hope, please. And so that's my journey began at UGA for 7 years. And yes, I got more than one degree from UGA. Did not take 7 years for undergrad, but I got my bachelor's degree in history as well as economics. And then I got my doctorate in law from the University of Georgia School of Law. Met my wife there. And then if you looked at my transcripts, you would learn two things real quick. I was never going to do real estate law, worst grade ever. In fact, I'd never seen a C before. I kind of stared at it for a while. And after that, every other class I took was constitutional law, criminal procedure, criminal theory. If it had criminal in it, I took it. And that was going to be my path in life. And when I came out of law school, I came out in 2007. And as everyone will remember, the Great Recession occurred in 2008. I had started out as a solicitor in Clayton County. In Clayton County, what's the saying, Sheriff? Last one in, first one out. Mm-hmm. Saw the writing on the wall, and I was fortunate enough to come out to Paulding County, where I became the law clerk for Judge Kenneth Vinson and Judge James Osborne. And it opened my eyes up to everything legal, not just a little narrow window of criminal law. And then I fell in love with Paulding County because it is the closest facsimile to Harris County I will find in metro Atlanta. The dirty little secret about Harris County is you're not going to have a legal practice in Harris County. There are more trees and cows than people.
Yeah.
And came out here, fell in love with the idea of public service, was mentored by Kenneth Vinson, and got tired of starving as a law clerk. So I went into private practice with a very respectable law firm. I won't ruin their business by telling them who it was with. And then my path diverged. Again, I wanted to return to public service, and I had the opportunity to join the State Ethics Commission as their general counsel. I prosecuted politicians for political crimes for the next 9 years. What brought me back to Paulding County was that desire to serve again, but as everyone knows, a prior district attorney, who shall remain nameless, behaved poorly, and his successor, Mr. Matthew Rollins, is a dear friend. I knew he wanted some help, and I was willing to come back. I promised him I wouldn't rock the boat for the first year. I lasted all of 15 days and started rocking the boat and never looked back. So when he was fortunate enough to go to the Superior Court bench, I was fortunate enough for the governor to select me to be district attorney. That's my path in a nutshell.
Yeah. Well, what an exciting path. So something that kind of piqued my interest and I didn't know is that your dad was a fighter pilot.
He was.
So that's awesome. Tell me, like, what did he fly? Because when I was a kid, I'm a little bit older than you, but Top Gun was like my favorite movie. And then when, Top Gun Maverick came out, I've seen it a zillion times. But what did your dad fly?
F-16s primarily.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to show my age, but for the people listening, if you ever grew up with like Iron Eagle, that's kind of how my childhood and teenage years were like. And that's a real kind of, it's Hollywood, so a lot of it's made up. But the kids' teenage years, getting the Cessnas and going and flying and doing stupid acrobatic tricks, we did it all the time. And when people say, no one takes their kid flying in an F-16, okay, sure, yeah, no, they don't.
Maybe not anymore.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Maybe not, but most people don't ask the colonel who the new cadet is.
Right.
So.
Did you have a Chappie Sinclair?
No, I didn't.
Only people that have seen Iron Eagle are going to know who Chappie was. He was awesome.
I didn't have a Chappie, but no.
That's fun. That's pretty cool. I've always enjoyed, the fighter jets and things like that. That's pretty cool. So, we've worked together since I've been the sheriff, a little bit over 7 months. But something that I think is interesting, I'm the 50th sheriff of Paulding County, and if I'm not mistaken, you're the fifth DA. Okay. The fifth DA. And so a lot of people are probably thinking, well, we've had DAs a lot longer than that. So could you elaborate on why you're the fifth? I know why, but maybe for the listeners and viewers.
Yeah, most people don't realize this, but most judicial circuits are not just single counties.
That's right.
Most judicial circuits are an average of 3 to 5 counties. Some go all the way up to 9 or 10 counties. So in Georgia, you have 159 sheriffs because each county gets their own sheriff. You only have 51 district attorneys because there are only 51 judicial circuits that cover 159 counties. For Metro Atlanta, which Paulding County is part of, for better or worse, each metro county is their own single judicial circuit.
That's right.
So that's why. So we split. The first split occurred from the Tallapoosa circuit in early 2000. That was with James Osborne, who then became the first DA for Paulding County. And then from there it was James Osborne, Drew Lane, no relation to Drew Lane. I don't say that with disrespect, but everyone asks. My folks are from Lower Alabama and his aren't. And then Dick Donovan was number 3, Matthew Rollins number 4, and I make number 5.
That's right. Well, it's exciting to have our own circuit because, in the past I've been with the sheriff's office for coming up on 23 years. And so it was kind of tough back in the day when we had the Tallapoosa Judicial Circuit, which was Polk, Paulding, and Harrelson, if I'm not mistaken. And, your judges traveled, your DA traveled. And so it was took a lot longer to get your cases to trial. But now since we have our own DA here in the county in our own circuit, things go a whole lot quicker. And probably because we have a state court now, that makes it go even a little quicker than before. And so maybe even touch on why, I know what you do. I know that you guys your office handles only felony cases, but a lot of people may not understand the difference between state court and superior court and the district attorney and the solicitor.
Yeah, there's a good distinction. We're very fortunate that in 2022, our legislative delegation shepherded through the creation of our state court.
That's right.
When I first came out to Paulding County in 2008, we didn't have a state court. We were the largest county without a state court in Georgia history. And what that did is it backlogged the entire criminal justice system because you would have traffic tickets where someone demanded a jury trial because they got pulled over at a stop sign, blocking a murder trial that's been waiting for 2 years.
Right.
And the nice thing about having that state court is it's not only taking those traffic tickets and the lower level misdemeanors out of the superior court. State court can also, with the addition of one of our newer judges, can handle civil cases, and those civil cases can take 2-3 weeks at a time, so they're not backing up the criminal docket in superior court anymore. You're right that our office deals only with felonies. The only time we deal with a misdemeanor is if you rob the bank and you speed. We don't have to break up the case. I can get you for both. But if it's purely misdemeanor, we work closely with our Solicitor General and make sure she has all the resources she needs because she does an important job too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about what does just an average day for you look like? Are you in the courtroom every day, prosecuting cases? Are you doing more managing of your assistant district attorney? So what does a day look like for you as the district attorney?
I wear many hats. Unfortunately, a lot of times it's a much more administrative hat. Yeah. I've known that when I was general counsel. I do kind of I do steer clear of just becoming a pure administrator. I've always feared if you're doing nothing but administration, you don't know what's happening in the trenches, you lose touch.
That's right.
You have to be able to show people you are capable of doing the job or they're not going to follow you. So I have maintained an active caseload, particularly around our civil asset forfeiture. That's pretty much mine from start to finish. I started it in 23 when I came out here. I've continued it since then, much to the relief of my staff because it deals with civil law as opposed to criminal procedure. They scatter when I mention the word. They're like, I'm not doing that. I went to law school for criminal work. I also actively manage our mental health court system as well. That is one of the distinctions I have as one of the only elected district attorneys that actively participates in an accountability court.
Gotcha. We're going to talk more about that civil asset forfeiture in just a minute. So keep that close in your heart.
I just don't want to bore your people with budget details.
No, I know, and I get it.
Out of that one.
Yeah, we're in the same boat as the sheriff. You know, it's difficult because you want to try to maintain. I pulled somebody over the other day, and I forget what it was even for, and I called it out on the radio, and before I could even like hardly get out of the car, there were like 3 or 4 units that were like, "What you got? What you got? You okay?" I'm like, "Y'all, I've been stopping cars for a long time. I did this every single day for a very long time. But you know, when they see the sheriff or the DA doing stuff, people feel like they got to get out there and get involved as well.
The one thing that scares me is when I come in the courtroom, everyone freezes like something bad's about
right. Like something's wrong. Like, oh crap, what did we do wrong? Like the other day, matter of fact, yesterday morning I showed up on a call, and the guys were like, you could tell they were being like so careful with what they said to the complainant. And I was like, y'all, do your job. I'm just here. I'm just as backup. Yeah. Like, don't mind me. So, but it's important to get out there and let your folks see that you can still do the job. I agree 100%. So, what do you think? And I'm going to kind of give my answer too after you do. But what do you think the most rewarding part of being our district attorney is?
The most rewarding thing that I've had in the past almost year in office is when you actually are able to get justice for a family.
Yeah.
The relief that they have, and I've told people this, healing doesn't happen in that courtroom. I don't care what people tell you. It doesn't. It happens outside of the courtroom. But it's the beginning of their journey to healing. They can finally start putting things to rest as much as you can once you come into our system.
Yeah.
That's probably the most rewarding.
Yeah, and I would say something very similar. Just being there to help our community, to help make a difference, to follow through with the things that we said we were going to do, and to see those things come into fruition. We're working on a pension plan to get our all public safety personnel in Paulding County to be able to draw a pension at 55 is huge, and we're about to cross the finish line. So for me, being able to see the finality of things that we've been working on for so long, and for me, I've only been the sheriff a little over 7 months, but I've been with the sheriff's office for nearly 23 years. So this is my life, this is my career, and so it's been rewarding in that regard. So let's shift gears just a little bit, and let's talk about civil asset forfeiture, and then probably one of the things that is most notable for this calendar year is the seizure and sale of one of our local drug houses. So just a super condensed Reader's Digest version of what that really entails, because if we get too far in the weeds, it gets to be a lot. But let's just let our viewers and listeners know, what does that entail, and then let's talk about our house on Crossroads Church Road.
The 30,000-foot view is civil asset forfeiture is a tool we can use to hit drug cartels where it hurts.
Right.
One thing that you and I have talked about, one thing we've talked about with other elected officials is drug cartels don't care how long I send petty dealers to jail. They don't care. They have a line of people waiting to sell more drugs.
That's right.
As evil as they are, they're businessmen. If you hit the bottom line, they will go somewhere else. And I appreciate your motto and your promise of stopping crime at the county line. And I echo, if you're already here, pick somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's not going to be your sanctuary. And that's where we really turn the screws on those individuals, is by hitting them in the pocketbook. So when an arrest occurs, and it is not just simple possession, I know that's one thing that people have called and yelled at me about.
Yep.
This isn't the grandma with one marijuana joint in the car. I'm not taking her car. This is for someone engaged in drug trafficking. These are the big time dealers who are selling to the little dealers, or it's the medium-sized dealers doing more retail distribution. They're kind of the Costco of the drug world.
Right.
We take whatever instrument they used in the drug trade. If they have a stash house, we take the house because they use those houses as a warehouse. They hide in plain sight. They hide in your neighborhood. One was hiding in my neighborhood. Unfortunately for them, the DA can recognize a drug deal going on in the middle of the day. Didn't end well for them. Additionally, we'll take the cars they used to transport. We will take every last bit of cash that they've procured from that. Anything that those drugs fund or buy, we seize. And the idea is to bankrupt their operation as fast as possible. That's why it moves faster than the criminal side. The intent from the legislature was that it moves quickly so you can actually hit the drug trade instead of waiting 4 or 5 years to actually have an impact.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important for everyone to understand that, because a lot of people think that we're just going out and just taking people's property, and that's not really the case at all. These folks are bona fide drug dealers, and it's not small amounts. These are fairly significant amounts, and it's multiple offenses. These are not just instances where we're dealing with these people one time and that's it, and we're taking their property. These are, repeat offenders. These are, drains on our communities. And so, we'll kind of talk about the Crossroads Church Roadhouse. I mean, we put a video out about it, but because of our work in the beginning, our drug task force, and then you and your team's work in the courtrooms, we were able to get that house and then sell it and take those proceeds. Your office gets a portion, our drug task force gets a portion, and they can use that money for training, equipment, vehicles, things like that.
Yeah. What we can use the funds for, the second calls I get the most, besides that you're taking everyone's property, is there's this belief that we now have a slush fund that we can just go on vacation to pay bonuses. And it's greatly controlled with what we can do, and it's audited. It can buy equipment. It can do drug reduction programs. It can subsidize our mental health court and drug court. It's done to pay court costs. Most people don't realize my office doesn't get waived court costs. I pay for the court reporter, the filing fees, experts, just like you would any other civil client in the country. So it pays for all of that, and it keeps us from having to increase the tax burden. And I don't have a problem with the cartel lowering our tax burden.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that, you and I have had a great working relationship. And so I think it's important for the community to know that we do work hand in hand. Our detectives, our deputies work hand in hand with you and your assistant district attorneys in the prosecution of cases. We're always, especially in a big case, we have a direct line to you and your team, and we consult. And so a lot of times when we have these big cases, we work with you guys to make sure we're taking the proper steps to ensure when it does go to court that you and your team can prosecute the case properly. But so let's talk about the relationship and the team that we have combating crime.
Absolutely. I can't overstate this, and I can't explain it well enough. When I first came back to the DA's office, the relationship between the Paulding County Sheriff's Office and the DA's office was broken. There's no other way to put it.
Yeah.
And it had been broken for a long time. I don't want everyone to pick up the phone and call Matthew Rollins and say, you broke it. He didn't. But he inherited a broken system. And there was no communication between command staff in your office and my office. And at the time, they weren't our offices. But you would have investigations that wouldn't discuss with the DA's office about legal ramifications. You had cases that were going to trial that didn't bother to prep in advance to determine what had happened in the investigation. That has completely changed, and I cannot thank you enough for that cooperation, because it has taken a conviction rate that was very low and moved it very high.
Yeah.
So, and people will eventually see the results. I wish it could be faster, but the legal system grinds very slowly for
it does.
So
the wheels of justice definitely turn slow, and that's what we tell people all the time. Victims will call, and they really won't be able to understand why it takes so long for things to happen. And that's just the process. Unfortunately, it does take a while.
I try and tell people the reason it moves slow is because it ensures that innocent people don't have their rights trampled.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'd rather get it right than get it fast.
Yeah, 100%. I would rather get it right every day than to send an innocent person to prison. You guys have had a lot of successes in your almost year in office. Are there any that you want to highlight specifically? I know you've put some pretty serious child molesters in prison. There's been a lot of high-profile things, but anything that kind of just stands out to you?
That's probably the one I take the most pride in. I had a younger, brand new assistant district attorney who threw her entire being into our most recent case. And what I've tried to get the community to understand is a lot of the sexual crimes are misnomers. They'll use the term child molestation or aggravated child molestation, and people don't know what that is because they're not reading the code. The most recent one we convicted and sent to prison for life plus 20, it says aggravated child molestation. The correct term is child rapist.
Yeah.
That's what he was convicted of. And he deserves to spend every last minute of his remaining days in that prison.
Oh, yeah.
And
Absolutely.
that's probably the one I'm most proud of.
And our team works obviously very closely with you and your team, and I agree. Those type of individuals, they have no business on our streets. They're predators.
They are,
and they need to be housed in prison for the rest of their remaining life. So, a lot of talk that we're hearing right now out in the community is the growth of what's happening in our community. We're growing exponentially. How are we going to keep up with the growth? How's the sheriff's office going to keep up with it? How is the DA's office, the fire department, all of our infrastructure and things like that? And with growth, you have more people, which means more crime, and something that a lot of people over the years have put their head in the sand regarding is gangs. And so let's talk about your team and the experts that you have on your staff that are helping our team combat this gang problem.
One of my first bosses out of law school was Tasha Mosley, who's the DA down in Clayton County. She's now started speaking to me again because I stole one of her prize gang prosecutors within 1 month of taking office, who's now come out here. She's the dedicated gang prosecutor. Anything gang related from the moment the arrest is reported to our office until jury trial, that case is her baby. It's a dedicated one-stop shop. If your people have questions, there's a hotline directly to her. We want to stop this problem from spreading because it is a cancer upon the community.
It is. So one of the things I always say, and I say this literally every time I talk about gangs, if there is one person who claims they're in a gang, then you got a gang problem. And so you've got some actual law enforcement officers, and people may not know that you actually have law enforcement officers employed by your office who conduct follow-up investigations. And so some of your guys are very astute when it comes to gang investigations.
They are. In fact, we have one that is a expert in gang prosecution and is with the Georgia Gang Investigators Conference.
Yeah.
He's a wealth of information. He's on that same team with our dedicated prosecutor. We actually have a dedicated admin for it as well. It's amazing to see what they're able to coordinate with just not only your office, but then our municipal partners as well, to ensure that the gang problem is actually addressed seriously for once.
You know, the big things that we always hear are drugs and gangs, and we kind of touched on both of those. And it's very important that we work hard to combat those things. But one of the biggest calls for service that we see on a daily basis is domestic violence. And so in Paulding County, fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, it seems that bedrooms are our business.
They are.
And I say that in the home building industry because it's a great place to live. And so when you have a lot of folks that live here, you have a lot of domestic type problems. I would say by looking at the numbers, our number one call for service is probably domestic related type issues. Just briefly, let's talk about what your staff, how you guys deal with that, how y'all combat domestic violence and those type issues.
Domestic violence is one of the hardest cases you will ever prosecute. I serve on the board of our local domestic violence shelter. I'm very familiar with the cycle of violence and how hard it is to break. It takes generally a person 8 separate events before they can leave their abuser. Yeah. And that's if they have somewhere to go.
And people, you didn't hear that wrong. 8 separate events. And there's a host of reasons why, and it's typically women that are victimized. And so I think it's important to bring awareness to domestic violence because a lot of times these women, they just, for whatever reason, whether it's financial, whether it's children or family or whatever the situation may be, they feel like they can't get out of that situation. So I think it's important for people to know that, we're here and we'll come and we'll help and we'll do everything we can. but we have to make sure those women know that there is help out there.
And I think it's important as well for us to make sure that we call it out when we see it. A lot of people say that's not my business, it's not my place, it's behind closed doors.
Yeah.
When you see it, you actually have to report it. And sometimes you have to think outside the box. We had a recent case in which a man raped his wife, and it's recorded. Unfortunately, there's no debating it.
Yeah.
The wife showed up into our office and asked us with tears to dismiss the case. We didn't. And trying to prosecute a case in which the victim recants, even when you have that evidence, most juries will vote either not to convict or there'll be a hung jury. They'll split.
Yeah.
They won't vote for conviction. So we thought outside the box. He is a convicted felon in possession of a firearm. So we called our U.S. attorney, our brand new U.S. attorney for the Northern District of Georgia, who took the case, because most people don't realize under Georgia law, I can only punish you for up to 5 years, and most of it's for probation for a convicted felon with a firearm. The U.S. attorney can do 18 years, and it's a straight 18 years. You don't get parole, you don't get probation. He is now, as of 12 hours ago, a guest of the federal government for the next 18 years.
Wow.
So she's free now to move on in life and try and rebuild what he took from her.
Well, and I think that's a testament to what you guys are doing, just thinking outside the box, because a lot of people, they get so and I'll just say, they get pissed at the system because they're like, well, you know, they do this and they just get off with nothing. But what they don't understand is that a lot of times these judges are held to a standard and they can't do more than what they might sentence in situations. So there's so many things in play that people don't understand. And it does make it difficult when you've got an unwilling victim. And in domestic type situations, a lot of times you do. And I've been on calls before where, you know, the man's beating the crap out of the woman, and you go lock the man up, and then the woman gets mad and she jumps on your back and says, don't take him to jail, don't take him to jail. I didn't mean it, I lied. Well, we know it's not a lie because she's sitting there with a red face and scratches and bruises all over her arms. So it just it shows you how cyclical it can be, and really it's unfortunate. And it's our job to be able to go in and try to take care of these victims when they won't take care of themselves. So let's talk about how you guys, because when you deal with folks, 9 times out of 10, there are victims, and it's not always the state of Georgia as the victim, but it's, you know, a victim, whether it's, you know, the victim's family or something like that. So how do you guys, tell us, you know, about what you guys do in your office to bridge that gap between your office and the victims or the families of the victims?
Sure. We actually have a dedicated unit of 7 advocates. They are victim witness advocates. They get assigned a case from the moment it comes into our office until it is done, and then they continue services even after a case is done. They help with arranging therapy, housing services, social services, the Crime Victim Compensation Fund. They help explain the system. And the only example I can give to people, because more people have done our healthcare system than our judicial system, it's like a patient advocate in a hospital.
Yeah.
They try and help explain the Latin terms that no one understands except the lawyers, and explain to them in plain English, this is what he's talking about. And I appreciate that, because I know sometimes I can do a Sheldon Cooper and like go over someone's head and they're like, huh? That's one of the ways we address it. The other thing is trying to help people understand the point of the justice system, which most people don't. I try and break it down as to like a tricycle theory. Dean Kurtz taught me in law school that there are 3 things that the justice system should do. The first one is protect the community. The second one is to rehabilitate the offender to break the cycle so they aren't constantly in the Henson Hilton.
Yeah.
And then the other one is to get retribution. That's revenge in dressed up terms. So justice for the victims. He always explained it as like a 3-legged stool. But I kind of rejected it once I got into office, because no system is perfectly equal in all 3. To me, the most important thing we do is protecting the community. Yeah. That's the big wheel on the trike. The other 2 sit in the back. And that's what we have to look at most. But also explaining to families, we're in the justice business. We're not in the revenge business. And that's very hard for them to understand, because someone they love has been harmed.
Right.
Or they've been personally harmed. And a very wise judge, Judge Lyles, if anyone would like to text him and say I'm giving him a shout out, please do. He said justice is somewhere between mercy and vengeance. Absolute mercy, which is a slap on the wrist, is what the defendant wants. Vengeance is what the victims want. It's somewhere in the middle for justice. Good luck.
Yeah.
And as I told you, the best day I have is when I get justice for a family. The worst day is when I have to sit with a loved one who's lost someone and explain to them that their loved one is lost because they broke the law and the person who took them was authorized by law to do it.
Yeah.
So those self-defense cases are gut-wrenching when you have to explain brutal truth to a family that is raw and hurting.
And you and I actually just talked about one of those that occurred last year, and it's tough when you have a situation like that. So, it excites me that, we've got such a great working relationship, your office and our office. The communication's been really good. So one of the things that we have implemented since I became the sheriff was a cold case squad. And so we've got one full-time employee who is over that, and then we've got several part-time employees. Right now we've got one retired FBI agent. We're about to bring another retired FBI agent on and another retired cop police detective. And so we're looking at old and cold cases. We actually were able to utilize some funding recently, and we had some skeletal remains that we were able to preliminarily identify. We don't believe it was a homicide. We believe that it was probably more than likely a suicide. We're still looking at it. But just utilizing these resources and the new technology out there. So we're as we come to the end, let's just talk about what that means to you and your office with this cold case squad, the utilization of technology. How do you see that making things better in the long run with some of these old cold cases?
I am very grateful for the actions you've taken to do that, because before you came into office, we didn't have it.
Yeah.
And when I first heard the campaign promise, I will confess I was mildly skeptical. But seeing it in action, seeing it at work, I can confirm for the public you have kept your campaign promise and exceeded it. I have enjoyed immensely watching the progress being made in cold cases. And it's not just a selfish political part on my end. I know I'm a politician now. It comes with the territory.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we both are.
We are. If you had told me that was going to happen years ago, I'd have laughed at you, but here I sit. But we only get one shot to get justice.
Right.
And we have to get it right. And I think the thing that really will catch my goat every time is when someone tells me, just throw it against the wall and see what happens. Our Supreme Court has issued very specific guidelines for lawyers, but prosecutors in particular. And they are very clear. You have a duty as a district attorney to only charge someone when you have evidence of their guilt, not rumors, not innuendo, not guesses, or as I always say, not what Becky's cousin's girlfriend's boyfriend said.
Right. So you mean you can't charge somebody with a crime if you don't like them, or if they're not perceived by the community as a good person?
There's no such law called aggravated icky.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's interesting. No, and that's what's and so that kind of brings a case to mind. And I know we can't talk about it in depth because the case is still open and active, but you know what I'm going to say. The Heather Turner death investigation, that's something that, we've been dealing with for a little over 8 years. Yeah. And so you and I have talked about this case in extreme depth, and we're actually working on giving this family a resolution. So I think it's important to let our viewers and listeners know that we have not forgotten.
We have.
I've only been in office a little over 7 months. You're just shy of a year.
You started working on it before you were in office.
Yeah.
You called me 48 hours after I took the oath of office, and we talked about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you took office after I already knew I was going to be the sheriff. And so we already had a conversation about it. And I just want our listeners and viewers to know that we are both committed to getting a resolution in this case. And what does a resolution look like? Well, it looks like trying to track down what the truth in fact is. And so, there's been a lot of what I would call noise
there is
regarding this case. And I think it's partially because in the past, we were never able to, me in my former role at the sheriff's office was never able to dispel some rumors and myths. And so, unfortunately, those myths have been perpetuated into fact. And there's a lot of internet sleuths out there who have pretty much created their own opinions about things that are actually not even fact.
That's true.
And I would say on our end and probably on y'all's end as well, we've put more man hours, or at least as many, in this particular case than we have any other case that we have sitting right now. So it's very important to me, and I know it is to you as well, to get this family a resolution.
It is. One of the first conversations we had, and forgive me for sharing it, was that we would do what the evidence supported.
That's right.
Not what people had come to believe.
Because there's one fact that we all know is that the evidence in this case has not changed.
That is correct.
It has not changed, and it will not change. And, there's all kinds of allegations of cover-ups from previous, administrations and previous employees and all those type of things. Obviously, we're sifting through all that, but that's a bunch of nonsense. It really is a bunch of nonsense.
Well, it is, and the one that really bothers me is when people claim that we're just part of a good old boy system.
Yeah.
What I tell to those folks is, if we're part of a good old boy system, I'm real bad at it, because I'm probably one of the few people that have locked up an insurance commissioner from Georgia not once but twice.
Yeah.
And had a court of appeals judge removed from the bench.
Yeah.
So if I'm scared of politicians, I don't really show it well.
Yeah, well, and, I think that's a testament to what you're doing as a district attorney. But I just want everybody to know that we are aware. We see the tags on social media.
We do.
Every time we post something, we get a tag from Heather's page. I've spoken with I guess, one of the family advocates, I guess you could say, and the family themselves. And if they don't know how committed we are to getting a resolution, then I don't know what else we can do.
You and I and our staff and our teams made a special trip to Atlanta and spent 6 hours going in painstaking detail as to what we knew and how we knew it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't want to be drag this out, but I just want people to know, I think it was important for us to at least acknowledge the case and make sure people knew that we are aware, we have not forgotten. We want to give this family a resolution. So I guess kind of summarizing, our conversation, it's been an exciting 7 months for me and a little bit more, or less than a year for you. But great things are happening in Paulding County. I think we've got a team of law enforcement and district attorney who are working probably as well together as we ever have, as long as I've been in law enforcement, which is just a little shy of 23 years. But my commitment is to continue working with you and your office to keep our community safe. And I think you said it best earlier when you said that was kind of one of the biggest goals. And I think that's both of our goals, is to keep Paulding County safe. We're one of the fastest growing counties in the state. And people want to come live here because it's a great place to live. It's safe. There's nice homes. The infrastructure is good. The school system's good. And it's our job to make sure that it stays that way. So, I think kind of rounding things out and finishing up, I appreciate you being here. If you got, what can we end up with? What do you think?
I think you've summarized it really well. And the only thing I'd add to it is, I want people to know it's not just you and I doing it alone. We have been able to get some of the best people in the Metro County area to join your office and mine. Yeah. There have been people who have joined since we've taken over that people stop and say, how did you do it?
Yeah. Well, and I think as we kind of close that, I think it's important for people to know, I don't know about your office, but we have a lot of vacancies. And one of the things that people don't understand, and I find this interesting because you say it a lot, is when you're ADAs, so that's an assistant district attorney, when they come out of law school, they got a lot of debt.
They do. About $180,000 is the outstanding debt.
And so when they come to your office to get hired on, their pay is not great.
Their starting pay is currently $68,200, and I know everyone says that's a lot of money. It's not when you're making the $180,000 payment on that student loan debt.
No, absolutely not. And you're trying to pay for a house and a car and insurance and all the things. So I think it's important for people to know that, you guys need help, we need help, but with the resources and the personnel we have, that's why we're successful. It's not because I'm the sheriff and you're the DA. It's because of the teams we have behind us and with us and beside us that make it important. But I think it's been a great conversation. One of the things I said in the campaign was we're going to stop crime at the county line, and that's a joint effort. I mean, I can't stop it without your help of keeping those jokers out. It's true. And so I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you and your office with helping us stop crime at the county line.
It has been a pleasure, Sheriff, and I look forward to the future.
Absolutely. Well, you guys have a great week, and we'll catch you next time on 10-8 Paulding.
Sounds great. Thanks, sir.
Yes, sir.